All right, let's get right to the heart of this thing. Why am I still doing van life? Why am I still doing van life? Hold on. I fucking hit the panic button. It's like, what is going on here? Why am I doing van life? I don't know. But what am I supposed to do? Buy a fucking mansion and live in it? Like what? Like what would you do? See, this is the thing. I had a girl on Jim Rosoli's comment thing. Probably a really nice person. She was telling me her experience with the guy that only had a P.O. box. And I get it. I know what she was talking about, and he was crazy, and you know, people didn't take him serious. And that was her kind of giving me advice that is the category I could or would fall into. And I agree, you're right. You're right. I've always, my whole life, I've been an oddball. A freak, you know, always on the fringes of society, never fit in. It was weird because, like, I never had really a group pretty much to go with, like, you know, growing up. And I looked like a jock. And I played sports. You know, I have a good build. But when you look like a jock, the groups that usually welcome in, you know, fellow freaks, they see you as a threat. You know what I mean? So, like, even to this day, in the normie world, not in the gang world or the street world, I fit in pretty good there. But now that I'm a normie, in a wake normie, I don't really fit in anywhere, you know. And at face value, you see me, I look like a jock. You know what I mean? I look like a meathead, and I'm not at all. And so, for me to fall into a category out here in the real world, it just doesn't happen, right? And so you would say, like, why are you still doing van life? Well, I have no choice right now. I've been in a 7-year custody battle, and though I can just start making stories about that, that was the worst thing I ever went through in my life. I got married not for marriage sake. I got married because I was a fugitive, and I needed a partner in my life that also had a fugitive gangster mindset in order to, you know, be with me. To the kind of person, the background I have, you can't just walk into a normal person's life and open up about, you know, you're an ex-felon, you're on the run from the law, your history, your background. So you have to find somebody kind of a like mind. And so I found my daughter's mom, and like I said, I could say a lot of bad stuff about her because of what she did with me and my daughter and stuff. But in all actuality, that was probably the most normal female I could have been with, and she was of a gangster mindset. You know, immigrant, Eastern European, and she was okay with the fact that I was a fugitive and that I was a gangster, and that, you know, I had a very, very checkered past. Nothing creepy though. Like, if you want to know my criminal history, what I've been in trouble for, I was battery with serious bodily injury, and preventing and dissuading a witness from reporting a crime by threat and force, witness intimidation. Those are my 2 felonies I've ever had, and I did prison time on both of them. So I hooked up with someone that was kind of like me, and we teamed up because I was a fugitive and maybe was going to have to leave the country. And if I was married to her and we went back to Eastern Europe where she's from, I would have been able to get citizenship and we would have been safe there. And so her and I kind of made a deal with each other. Like, you know, we were together. We obviously had an intimate relationship, but we were both very, very, very rough around the edges type of people. The Italians would call you a knockaround guy. You're a knockaround guy, you know. And we were both knockaround guys, street people. You name it, we did it. And so we got together, and she had a son who I got to raise from the time he was like 2.5 or 3, and I loved it. I had no idea that I was going to fall in love with being a dad. In my daughter's mom, my stepson's mom, and I were just coming off of a really hardcore drug binge. We were just coming back from Pluto, metaphorically speaking. I grounded myself before my ex did, and she was still running around, doing stuff on the streets, and I was being a dad to her son, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. I loved cooking food for him. I loved reading to him. I loved buying him Legos. Like, I loved turning my house into, something accommodating to a little child. I loved just everything about it, So before I knew it, that little boy was calling me dad. He knew me as his dad. And there were times when I should have bounced out on my ex because of shit that she was doing and shit that she was bringing upon the family. But I stuck around for the little guy, my son. And I don't regret it, because I think that had I not met her and had that little boy in my life, I probably would be dead right now or in prison for the rest of my life for something really bad, something serious. And the whole, like, how I even met my ex, my daughter's mom, is kind of a bizarre story. Her brother and I met in prison, and we met through, it was just really weird. Like, there's a whole story on how I even got to his prison, but I got to the prison he was at, and we met each other because we were both Jewish in prison. And in prison, when you're Jewish, you kind of have a Jewish car to an extent. And the Jews do everything together. Like, they get, if you're on the kosher diet, you get to go to dinner together, you go get your food together. And so we got to know each other. And he's of Eastern European descent, Jewish Eastern European descent, as in I'm Eastern European descent, and Italian and Gypsy. So we kind of hit it off, and he realized I was a really good dude. And when I got out, I lived in the same area he was from, where I got out to the same area he was from, and he put me in contact with his family in case they ever needed anything. Like, if his mom ever needed anything, they can get a hold of me. And anyways, long story short, his sister ended up getting a hold of me to get a hold of his sister, and then his sister and I just kind of ended up hitting it off, you know what I mean? And then we started dating, and then because we're both, crazy gangster mentality people, we ended up running off together, and we were partying and just doing crazy shit. And luckily we didn't end up dead or in prison. And then we ended up calming down. I ended up raising her son. But the whole entire time this was going on, I was a fugitive. I was absconding from parole. And I did that. I successfully evaded capture by law enforcement for 7 years. And I turned myself in in order to fight for custody of my daughter, because I had to go and use the court system. And so, anyways, long story short, we got married for reasons that weren't for like love or anything like that, but she needed someone to help her raise her son. I loved being a dad. I needed to make sure that if something happened here, or if law enforcement was about to catch me, I needed to know I could leave the country, and where we go, I can get citizenship. That was the main thing, is I could fly into where she's from, and we can show her our birth or our marriage records, and bam, I get citizenship, and it's citizenship in a country that doesn't extradite people back to America. So, and it was like a business agreement between me and her. And so yeah, that's how I met my ex. And then, and the whole time I'm a fugitive on the run, and it was actually the best I ever did in my life. It's when I went to truck driving school and learned how to do truck driving, and I was like, you know, I was still dabbling in the underworld, but I was also kind of living a normie life. I was living a double life, and so was my daughter's mom, and we were raising the son. Anyways, so we ended up to where I was making really good money. We had a nice pad. We had always had nice places, nice vehicles. We had everything we needed. And I loved my son so much that, you know, I had to have my daughter's mom's back tenfold. You know what I mean? If she wasn't, women are women. You know what I mean? Women are scandalous and psychopathic and only think of themselves. But I you know what I mean? Like, the one I was with was a lot more shystier and just more of a gangster, cutthroat, pirate mentality than most girls I had ever been with, you know? However, she could get me citizenship in Eastern Europe, and I needed that, you know. So we had all these escape plans set up. We had money, like, we were good to go, but like things started to kind of normalize in our lives. We both got clean, and next thing you know, I have a 5-year-old now, a boy, and he's starting kindergarten. So we had to put the roots in somewhere, you know what I mean? Because we were kind of bouncing around, but we always had a nice place. It wasn't bouncing around like intense and shit. We were very comfortable. We were hood rich, you know what I mean? Like, we had everything we needed. And if something happened to me, she would, like, I had it to where she would be okay for at least 6 months. You know what I mean? That's how much I cared for her son. So at 5 years old, he now knows me as his dad. You know what I mean? And he's my son. I love him to death. I would die for him. And so we had to get grounded, and we rented a place way up in the mountains on 40-something acres. It was cool, right? So we had this beautiful place way up in the mountains, and I was able to work from home. We had a good income coming in. My son started a school like up in the mountains, you know what I mean? His kindergarten year. It was cool, right? Like, it snowed up there, and it was just awesome. We had a wood burning stove, 2-bedroom house, garage, couple bathrooms, a deck, and it was just out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, right? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And yeah, it was just, it was just cool, you know what I mean? My son was, you know, doing really good in school. He knew how to read, and, you know, like, he was bilingual. He spoke Russian and English, and my wife, like, we had a Russian home. Like, everything was Russian, you know what I mean? Like, everything we listened to, everything we watched for her and our son and stuff. And it was just cool, you know? And I never even thought of having a child. And I wonder, like, I'm not proud of it, but I slept with so many women throughout my life. I now wonder, like, if I have children out there, you know what I mean? And there's no way to know, because I've been all over the place. I've been fucking all over the East Coast, all over the West Coast, all over other countries. And I would love if somebody got a hold of me and was like, hey, I'm your daughter, I'm your son, you know, but it just never happened. No one has ever been able to find me, right? But I was so out of control. I was just like, I'm never gonna have, you know, I'm never gonna settle down with somebody and have a child, right? Unless it's a really fucking crazy person. And the girl I was with now, my daughter's mom, was, I wouldn't say she was crazy, but she was, you know, she was about the business, you know what I mean? Like, she was the kind of person that would drive a getaway car for me, you know what I mean? Not that we did that. I'm just saying that's metaphorically the kind of person she was. It wouldn't freak her out, you know, to have her as a wheel guy in some serious shit, you know what I mean? She's been there and done that. And that's the kind of person I had to have around me. And I knew that if I was going to have a child with somebody, it was going to be with a person that was fucking a gangster, you know? Someone that was a fucking pirate. So, long story short, my daughter's mom gets pregnant. She's like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, cool. Like, that's fucking great. You know what I mean? And probably wasn't the best match of people to get together and have a child, because we're both, you know, fucking nuts. But she was pregnant. And once I found out she was pregnant, I treated her like a god. You know what I mean? Like, because she was the incubator of my daughter, you know? And I took care of her. I fucking fed her like a prize fighter, you know what I mean? Like, I took it very serious, and I loved it. You know, she was pregnant. That's the only time you'll ever see a woman normal and trustworthy and respectful and loyal, is when they're pregnant and like 6 months after the child's born. After that, women go right back into being women, which is evil, psychopathic, and just, you know, it's just the way they are. You got to love them for what they are. But even our own moms are like that. We got to accept that women are a fucked up breed of human being. However, you got to love them. And there are moms, there are grandmas, there are aunts, there are sisters, and there's nothing you can do to change it. Women, water's gonna be wet, and women are gonna be pieces of shit. You know what I mean? And men too, but women are a breed of their own. You know. So, anyway, so I have my daughter, man. It was fucking great. Got this daughter, and anyways, where was I going with all this? Oh, why I live in a van. Anyways, so bam, I have a daughter, and then as soon as my daughter's like 1.5, weird shit starts happening. And now I know it's my daughter met some guy. The guy inherited a bunch of money in the millions. And I found out way after all this, right? And now, putting the pieces of the puzzle together after 7 years of court, I know what happened. So shit started to get weird. Shit started to get uncomfortable. And I couldn't make any moves. And I couldn't run things with an iron fist, because I had a felony fugitive warrant hanging over my head. Law enforcement was looking for me. Like, if they knew where I was, they were coming in with a SWAT team. So I couldn't use muscle to keep everybody in line. I couldn't do shit. And so I was at the mercy of my daughter's mom. And I was at the mercy of a woman's loyalty, which doesn't exist. So I had to depend on my ex to be loyal to me, just to be loyal to me. And women don't do that. So she met some guy and was making all these moves. And you got to understand, my ex was a gangster chick, you know what I mean? And so this wasn't any, you know, her moves are fucking pretty serious. Anyway, so then she ends up, because I had no recourse. I couldn't go to the courts and file for custody. I couldn't do anything, right? Because I had a fugitive warrant. All my ex had to do was call the police and say, you know, Gypsy Fox is at so-and-so, and they're coming to get me, guns blazing. So I didn't know what was going on totally, and I was kind of walking very softly. Long story short, she ends up kind of kicking me out, you know, and then that's when I started to live in a van. This is like 8.5 years ago, right? And so I lived in the van, and then I started to do truck driving, and I would go on the road and then come back and live in the van, and then, you know, check in with my ex, like, you know, because I didn't know what was going on, you know what I mean? and I was still like going over and seeing my daughter. Then my ex started like to change the locks. She fucking took all of our belongings that were in a safe, like money, and I had silver and all kinds of shit. She put it in her own safety deposit box. And, you know, there was nothing I could do. I couldn't use muscle, right? One, because she had the children. She took care of the children. And if anything happened to mom, then the children are going to suffer. So there's nothing, you can't do any, you can't use muscle. You can't use, you know, you could try to reason with them, but a woman isn't going to be loyal to you just to be loyal to you. There has to be, it has to be contingent. And her contingency of loyalty lied in the hands of another guy who inherited a few $1 million. And she needed to get me out of the picture. And she was using my fugitive status is a deterrent for me to do anything to kind of stop what was going on, even though I didn't fully know what was going on. So I lived in the van, I did truck driving, and then I would come home, and I started to talk to a lawyer, and he explained to me what I had to do, because I was explaining to him the situation. He's like, yeah, this doesn't sound good. And he's like, look, if you want to be with your daughter, you're going to have to turn yourself in to the police. And I'd been on the run for like 7 years. And I always thought we were going to move out of the country because something was going to happen. But, you know, like stuff started to work out for me. I was working, doing trucking. I was making good money. And I met this dude, man, my lawyer. He fucking saved me from losing my daughter. Say what you want about lawyers. This guy was a godsend. Like the whole entire thing, how I found him. He got a hold of me. And he started to explain to me, because he had been in the game for a little while. You know, he was like, this is probably what your daughter's mom's doing to you. And my son, you got to remember, I had a son that I raised, you know, for over 6 years. You know what I mean? He was my guy. You know what I mean? He was like my son. And he didn't know, he knew me as, he thought I was his biological dad, you know? So I'm doing trucking, and I'm doing long haul trucking. I'm working for this Pakistani dude. When he was cool, like me and this guy used to be cool, and then he ended up ripping me off. And so I'm coming home, doing van life, then going back out on the road, and my ex would allow me to come over and see my daughter for like an hour or 30 minutes, just being a bitch, you know what I mean? And there was nothing I could do. You know what I mean? All she had to do was call 911, and that was a wrap. You know what I mean? And she had a little bit of dirt on me that she was going to use, if, you know, like she was keeping me in line with you know, the fact that she could call the police on me, and that she knew, you know, some things that wouldn't help me out if I was, you know, incarcerated, and she was going to use it against me. And I was like, why is this bitch doing this? And it turned out, you know, it had to do with money. She met somebody with a bunch of money. She needed to get me out of the picture, and she was going to hand the children over to him, get married to him, and then she's going to be hooked into that money, and so will the children, right? It's like, fuck, dude. So I had to turn myself in. So I worked, saved up some money, and then I literally came home and fucking got all my shit all straightened out. And I called my parole officer, and I said, look, this is what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to go turn myself in. He didn't believe me, right? And got my shit straightened out, called an Uber, drove to the jail, walked in, said, yeah, I'm here to turn myself in. I said, okay. And it took 3 months to straighten all my shit out, and then they let me out. I was back on parole. I still had like 8 months of parole left, but now, because I was legal, I can now file for custody of my daughter, which is what I did. So this whole time that I'm doing all this, I had an apartment, right? And parole, like, they ended up transferring me to a big county, and it was a huge ordeal to get that to happen. But I had a little pad, a little cockroach pad, and I was living there and working some fucked up trucking job, doing local shit, and that's when the battle began for my daughter, right? And in 7 years I was in and out of court, and so what I ended up doing was giving up the apartment and just working. And when I came home, I just did van life. I just lived in the van. I don't have family here. I don't have friends here. I'm not from this area, you know? So that's why I was doing van life that whole time. There was no point in getting an apartment when I fucking... some pretty girls, man, around here. There was no point in getting an apartment if I'm fucking doing truck driving, right? Because I was working for a dude out of this area, and he was able to get me back for court. And so, like, it was just crazy. For 7 years, I'm doing these counseling things, and I'm doing it all while working and doing trucking. And in the meantime, I just lived in my van. And so that's why and how I was started to do van life. It didn't make sense for me to get an apartment, right? It's not like I had another family or another wife or another girlfriend. It was just me. I've been single for 7 years. I've been celibate for 6. I had sex one time with my best friend's friend, with my best friend's best friend, like 3 years ago. These strippers. And I'm telling you this because, like, I don't even talk to women. I have no women in my life, and I have no problem getting women. I just have been devoted to doing custody battle, right? So I don't date. I don't have friends. I don't even go out and get laid. I don't do nothing. My whole life has been my daughter, fighting for my daughter. When I come home, I live in the van. I live like a bum. Sometimes I'll get jobs in other states. I go there and I live in my van and drive truck, come back, and whatever time I take off, I'm living in the van. Sometimes I'll stop working when I got money saved up and I have a lot of time in between court dates, and I'll do van life. I'll go to Arizona, I'll go to fucking Washington, I'll go to Oregon, I'll go to Texas, I'll go to fucking New Jersey, I'll go wherever the fuck I want, right? And do all the real van life stuff. I hike mountains. Like, I drive and I'll find like peaks, the highest peak in an area, and I'll hike mountains, and I'll do all kinds of crazy outdoor survival shit. I'll camp in the snow. I'll shoot squirrels with BB guns. I don't own any, just a BB gun. Like, I'll go and shoot squirrels with BB guns in the snow and cook them, pretending I'm like in a survival situation, you know. I'll fish and do all this crazy shit, and then I'll come back, get a job trucking, go back to making money, fighting for my daughter, go to court, come home on my break. I live in a van. I live in a van. I don't live anywhere but living in a van. I probably could have found a girlfriend and lived with her and did all those things, but for some reason with me, I wasn't able to do that psychologically. I wasn't able to ground myself and meet somebody. And, you know, all I thought about was being with my daughter. And that hasn't panned out. Everything kind of turned on its head. And I have a court date on the 10th. And I'm going to find out what's going on. And what my lawyer and I have been talking about is for us to put something like a deal together for my ex and say, look, I'll disappear for 3 years. I won't try to do any counseling, like, because I could go back to counseling. Like, there's some things I can do, but it just wouldn't make sense right now. My daughter's 10 and she hasn't accepted me. I've tried counseling for like 2 years and she's been turned against me. And so I and my lawyer have decided it would probably be best to wait till my daughter's a teenager and her mind matures a little bit, and, you know, then she'll want to be with me. You know how when you turn into a teenager and everything completely changes? That's what I need to happen with my daughter. So for people, so that's why I don't mean to, like, that's the fucking story, right? There's a lot of crazy shit attached to it. I can make videos till the cows come home, or the roosters come home to roost. But that's the gist of it, right? And then for people to be like, why are you still doing van life? You should be doing this, this, and this now. It's like, how? My life has been what I told you for 7 years. I have no family. What family I do have is not in this country. I have no friends here. You know, usually people have a girlfriend or a wife. I don't have that. I don't even date. As I told you, I haven't even had sex in 6 years except for one time. So everything you would need to ground yourself and move out of the van and start doing normal shit, like what you would consider normal shit, I have no way of doing that, right? So I would love to get a place, but where? Here? If I have to disappear for 3 years, like if my ex-wife accepts the deal and goes, okay, you disappear for 3 years, leave us the fuck alone, you know, and whatever, and then when you come back, we can pick up then, right? Okay, if she agrees to that and just leaves everything the way it is, and we could pick up where we left off in 3 years or 4 years, then that means I then have to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, right? Now, I have no one to turn to. I have, like I said, usually a man has a woman to go to in these kind of situations, and then they live together and get something going. I don't have that. Not that I couldn't, I just don't have it. So everything you would need to start something, I don't have. And I just ended up in the position I'm in, and I don't know if I'm going to live here. I don't know if I'm going to live somewhere in New York. I don't know if I'm going to live somewhere in Florida. I don't know if I'm going to live somewhere in fucking Arkansas. I don't know if I'm going to live somewhere in Oregon. I don't know if I'm going to live here in California. I don't fucking know nothing. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I have a little bit of money saved up, and I don't think it would be a good idea to go and get an apartment right now, because that's going to cost down payment first in the last months, and then you're paying what, $1,700 a month after that, and then what? So I'm sitting in an apartment just like I'm doing now, and doing what, you know? So that's why I'm still in the van. That's how I ended up doing van life. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I have to wait until the 10th of December to find out exactly what's going on. But my plan, what I want to do, if I get that 3-year window to pull back, leave everything the way it is, to where I could come back and get into counseling and do all these things for my daughter and I. If my ex-wife agrees to that and allows everything, me to pull back, and if I leave them alone and don't pull them back into court and try to do counseling and all these things, my plan is to go overseas somewhere for a little bit, check it out, see what's going on, come back here, work a little bit more, and then go back to wherever it was overseas. There's a place I want to go to, I'm not going to say it right now, and then stay there for a little while. And then when I need money, come back and work. That is the best plan that I have. I don't think, for me, the kind of person that I am, I don't think the best plan for me would be to meet somebody here and do the American thing and rent a place for $2,000 a month and work myself to death and stress out. You know, I am not just of gypsy blood. I am a gypsy in my mind and my heart and my soul. I need to stay moving around and doing shit. And it would be cool to do that with a partner, with the female, but who's gonna do that? You know what I mean? The only kind of woman that's gonna do that is a girl that's a gangster. You know what I mean? And I don't really have the energy in me to deal with somebody that's gonna cut my throat when I'm sleeping. You know what I mean? I'm fucking 46 years old, you know? So for people to, you know, what do you want me to do? I could right now get an apartment and do all that, but I don't want to why would I want to put in roots here? I'm going to have to do trucking. I was fortunate enough this last 3 months that I've been here, I got to go to school and take that art class, and I don't have any money coming in, but you see how I live, you know, I can live off, you know, $100 a month, which is what I kind of do. My biggest expense is eating. I eat a lot. That's how I battle depression and stress and anxiety. I have ADHD really bad, like really bad. And if you know anything about that, or you have it, that's not an easy thing to deal with. It's ADHD is like having all the like disorders you could possibly imagine all rolled into one, you know, and it's not fun. And the only thing that ever made me happy was my children. Food doesn't taste good to me. Water doesn't feel wet. You know, the sky doesn't look blue. Like nothing that you feel and consider, you know, part of your normal routine, and it's not like that with me. The only thing that made me feel whole and good and normal and grounded was the little guys. Fucking loved it. And you're like, well, go have another one. With who? You know? Yeah, like, yeah, I could find some normie broad, knock her up, but for, like, what? Why would I want to have a child with somebody like that? You know what I mean? Somebody like me has to have someone that's a little off, you know, a little off. In it's just the world here is a little too screwed up, and I think if I'm gonna find something like that, it's gonna be overseas. And so that's probably what I'm thinking about doing right now. But I have to so shit up with the core stuff that's going on with my daughter. And for now, I don't see any reason or anything wrong with the way I live. You know, yeah, I don't have a physical home address, and you know, I kind of seem, to somebody I might seem shady and unreliable and all that stuff. Like, I get it, I totally understand it. However, you know, with my background and what I've been doing, fighting for my daughter for the last 7 years, you know, what do you expect from me right now? It all stopped. That's what my life was committed and devoted to, and now I'm just kind of floating around, you know. I still have to finish, like, I got 2 more. School ends like December 15th, and I got an A in my art class. I know that's not a big deal. I graduated college. I have 2 college degrees, believe it or not, associate's degrees, but they're 2 college degrees. I did graduate high school. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not dead, and I'm not in prison for the rest of my life, so I'm doing pretty good. And I have a beautiful little girl, fucking beautiful. And my son, he's 17 now, and you know, I lost him in this battle. I would love to have my guy with me, you know what I mean? But that's the only thing that I know. There's a guy like all the way across the street with his fucking brights shining at me. I cannot believe it. Like, his brights are on. Hey, look at this. Do you see this? What is this? Anyways, so that's there. It shut off. Stuff like that really just confuses me. So that's why I live in a van, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. As of now, you know, I have to just stay course. I can't jump ship. This is my life. This is where I live. This is all I have. This is it right now. The only thing I have going good for me is I have a little bit of money saved up. I'm not on the run from the law enforcement. I'm a normal citizen now. I don't break any laws. I don't do anything illegal. I don't drink or do drugs. I actually try to help people. You know what I mean? Like, it's something I never thought I would be doing. And what I'm doing now is trying to figure out how to continue on to the next chapter of my life. And it's not going to happen like that, you know? And I have to live this way, not because I want to, but because I have to. I don't have a mom and dad to go live with. And there's nothing wrong. I'm not clowning on anybody that has a family to go to, or friends, or a girlfriend. Dude, I totally wish I had all that. I just don't. I'm not that guy, you know? I did recently make a friend with he's an older dude, engineer, computer scientist. What do they say? You can tell about a person by the company they keep. Like, I when I do hang out with people, even gangsters, that they're high end people, they're intelligent, you know what I mean? Like, my new friend now is, you know, he's the only guy I know, and I just met him, you know what I mean? So we got to take time and build a friendship. But it would be easy, yeah, if I had a girl in my life, but that wasn't in the cards. It just didn't happen, you know? I'm not an easy person to be around, and I'm not going to, a normal girl, like a normie type of girl, and God bless them, like, God bless them, I'm not saying that's bad. They couldn't keep up with me. It would be too much, and I don't want to do all that, you know what I mean? And if I have a child with somebody, I don't ever want to be in a position I was in with my ex, to where, you know, I can lose my child and go through all the things that I went through. That custody battle that I've been in is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. I mean, it took a piece of my soul from me. So that's why I'm still in the van right now. if you have any better ideas on what I should be doing, I mean, yeah, I can, within 1 week, I could be hired and back on the road and working as a truck driver. No problem like that. I'm a Class A driver. I have a shitload of experience. I have almost 1 million miles under my belt. Safe driver. But then what? Get a place and live in it? Well, I'll be on the road working. How am I going to live in it? You know, this is the best thing I have going for me right now is my van. And the only way I can live in a house or an apartment is if I do it overseas, because that is the only way I'll be able to do it and be able to afford it. So that's an update video. It's a fucking long one. I can't believe I made it that long, but that's for my friend Jim Rizzoli and all my other friends on BitChute. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, if you have any advice, please get at me. I'm listening. I'm wide open for anything anyone has that they think I should be doing. Please let me know, because I definitely will consider it and kick it around. Okay? Thank you.